Hi, this is Roger Moore, and you're listening to James Bond Radio.
Hello everyone, and welcome to James Bond Radio 30 Days of No Time to Die. This is day 2, where we're going to be looking at the pre-title sequence. With me is my good pal and fellow Bond premiere man, Mr. Tom Sears.
Premier man, I like it. Nice. Good to see you, buddy. Yeah, bruv.
Stuff. How are you feeling, man? Pre-titles.
I'm feeling good, man. Pre-titles, it's got to be the longest one ever, right?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, obviously, World's Not Enough was pretty long, but if you're taking everything into account, this one, it must be hitting close to half an hour, I think.
Yeah,
maybe.
Man.
I'm not sure the total runtime has got to be not far off that.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. I had an interesting thought going into it. Is that I'd heard from somebody who shall remain nameless that they knew that the Norway sequence, with obviously the mask and all that kind of stuff, was the pre-title sequence, right? And so I thought by that, I thought that the Matera thing wasn't the pre-title sequence, but what I didn't realize is it was both of those things. They both were the pre-title sequence. So that's the first time we've ever had that, isn't it? It's where there's a lot of story this time in the pre-titles. So really, for me, what the pre-titles in the Daniel era have become is just some form of chase, isn't it? That's what it is, really. Yeah. If you go back in the day, you had, look at something like GoldenEye. You have a little mini mission at the beginning there. Same with Goldfinger. Same with Daylights. You go back to Live and Let Die or Golden Gun. You have something completely different where Bond isn't even in it. So I thought we were going to have another one of those, and I thought, that's a brave move these days to have a pre-titles that doesn't have Bond in it. So I thought that's what we were getting. I didn't realize it was going to be like dream sequence, then into the next thing. So it's a funny one. Like, I'm not quite sure if that pre-title sequence is maybe a little bit bloated because it goes through so much stuff, or whether there was a way of like tightening it up or what. But like, not that I dislike it, do you know what I mean? But I'm just very conscious that it's very long and there's a lot that it gets through before we even get to the title sequence.
I'm going to give you a few options, and you tell me which of the three you think is best.
All right, go on.
Option 1 is how we got it.
Yeah.
So we get the Norway scene, we get the Matera scene, and we get the title sequence. Yeah. Option 2 is the Norway scene.
Yeah.
That is the pre-title sequence. There's no Bond. We see that. It cuts from Saffin taking Madeleine out the water, and then boom, titles. Okay.
Yeah.
Option 3, there's no Norway scene at that point. We kick off with Matera. We do that scene, the bridge, the chase, and everything. It finishes how it does with the train sequence into the titles, and then later in the film, we have flashbacks of Madeleine thinking back to that moment. So it's not as structured and formulaic, but you're getting hints of what happened. Out of those 3, what would you go for?
Well, I tell you what, Chris, I'm going to delay my response to that because I've just realised we've forgotten to talk about the gun barrel.
Oh,
right. So let's just talk about that first, and then we'll circle back to your 3 options there, man.
Okay.
Right.
Gun barrel.
Gun barrel thoughts, Chris. Go for it, mate.
Yes. Well, I've heard a lot of people being not so happy on this. No blood, obviously, coming down. I liked the actual the look of the gun barrel itself. I thought it was quite cool. Daniels, in terms of his walk and his shot, I've definitely think that's better than some of the ones he's done before. Some of them ones I think he's been very slow, and some he's almost been sped up.
Couldn't wait to get across the screen on some of them.
Yeah, I think this one is pretty much perfect for what's needed. I personally didn't see anything wrong with it. I think the music, I potentially could be a little bit different. I'm not sure. I didn't like the music was okay for the gun barrel, but it's not my favourite version. But in terms of the actual look of the barrel, I quite liked it. But obviously, there's no blood. Is that what are we thinking to that? What are your thoughts?
I've got very definite thoughts, and my definite thoughts are: stop messing with the gun barrel, right? Stop it. I don't need you to do anything new with it, right? The only thing I need you to change is the music each time. I want the classic Binder gun barrel look. I want it to pan across with the dots. I don't want the Universal logo to dissolve into one of the dots. Stop it, right? I want classic. I want it to look like that every single time. And then boom, he turns and shoots. The blood dribbles down. Job done, right? Stop fucking with it because it's perfect as it is, right? That's my thought, right?
So is the main annoyance for you the lack of blood?
See, here's the thing, right? That original gun barrel design is iconic, right? You look at that is the Bond gun barrel. You look at the gun barrel in No Time to Die, it's just a generic silver tube, right? That doesn't arouse me. What arouses me is seeing that absolute iconic Binder design right there on screen. Do you know what I mean? The blood, that's such a big part of it. The blood comes down, as Alan Partridge says, you know? So yeah, don't like it, right? Don't get me wrong, I'm glad it's there. I don't ever, right, move the gun barrel ever again. You're allowed to do it for casino, right? I get that. That's a nice touch, and I do enjoy that, right? Because it's the first one. Anything else of that, I'm not interested. I certainly don't want it at the end, and I don't want it anywhere else. And also what I want is I want it to come down to the corner, right? The little spotlight thing, and then open up. I don't want it to fade out. I don't want...
It would be nice to see that again.
I don't want anything else, right? I certainly don't... Yeah, I don't want it. So that's my thoughts. What I will say, man, is I don't think Daniel has ever delivered a truly solid gun barrel. I think he's done... There are issues for me with every gun barrel he's done. Like you say, a little bit too speedy there, Daniel. Slow it up a little bit, mate. Have a look at Pierce's one. That's the perfect gun barrel. That's unbeatable. That's the best one as far as I'm concerned. Now, also, you see the gun poking out of the back there in his hand.
Yeah, I remember quite a few people have mentioned that as well.
Inspector, you saw him waving his arms around. You see the gun in his hand. It's not how you do the gun barrel, Daniel. You keep the gun hidden, right? Then you whip it out and shoot. And this time, I think he's thought that. He's gone, right, I'm going to keep it a bit more hidden, but oh no, it slipped out the back there and everybody sees it. That's my take on the gun barrel. Now, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, in reality, if someone's got a gun trained on you and they see that you've got a gun, they're just going to fire, aren't they? Yeah. So I think it would be better to have it hidden and only revealed, obviously, on the turn and shoot. Yeah. So yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Like
all the other Bonds do it. They all keep their gun hidden. They don't wave it about all over the place.
Have you seen the gun barrel more times than just the amount twice?
I've just seen it twice. Yeah,
I've just seen it twice. Yeah.
Is it out there? Is it out there on the internet then or something?
No, I was just wondering that because it'd be quite interesting to see if an alternate gun barrel was employed just to see the difference. Like the lack of blood was something that sort of did throw me a little bit, for sure. But not enough that I detest it like some people. Yeah. To be honest, I'm just glad when there is one at the start these days. Yeah, me too.
For me, I think the gun barrel itself should never change. Maybe you update the look of it a little bit, but it's still the look. It's still that classic Bondian iconic design. And I feel like the only thing that should change is the music, right? And Bond himself doing it. Like George dropping down to one knee. Like that works for George, I think. I don't want to see any other Bonds do that. No. But the thing I'm interested in is the performance of the turn and shoot. That's the important part for me. And the music. Like in For Your Eyes Only, you get loads of cowbell, don't you? Ding, 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 and all that, So yeah, that's it for me. The musically, for me, it's just generic Bond music there. There's nothing special about that. Sometimes I do like it when they mix that up, like the License to Kill one. That's different, but it breathes danger onto the screen, doesn't it? It's like, oh, hold on a minute, we're on a back foot here because this feels dangerous to me. This is not our usual gun barrel. Anyway, that's done. So let's circle back to your three questions. So we either have just the Norway sequence on its own, pull her through the ice, then it dissolves into the music. We have it exactly as it is, or we just have Matera and the flashback happens later.
Yeah.
So I think personally, it's one or three. I would be see, what you could have done is you could have fleshed out the Norway sequence and had it longer, because that was such a stressful thing to watch, wasn't it? Like, it was a high tension. It was almost like a horror film. Very high tension. And you could have maybe just fleshed out, because as it is, if you just cut there through the ice, I think it would have felt like the pre-titles wasn't long enough. Certainly, we've been trained for longer ones in recent years. So I feel like maybe they'd have been like, oh, is that it? So maybe you would have fleshed it out a bit, made it a bit of a longer sequence, still the same idea, still the same climax, but you'd have fleshed it out a bit. I think I would like that, because that would be a proper wave of the flag of, this is a different Bond film, right? This is something else now. So, but then of course the third option of having Matera be the beginning with the flashback happening later, I do also feel like that would work as well. As it is, man, I do, not that it's wrong or in any way doesn't work. I just feel like there's so much to get through in a pre-title sequence, and I don't think that's the job of the pre-title sequence, is to blast some excitement into you. I mean, think of the old ones. They were completely irrelevant to the rest of the film. They were just to drop you into some action and fire up the excitement before the main thing would kick in, you know? So yeah, what are your thoughts on that one then?
Well, when you were watching it, did you, particularly for the first time, were you thinking, Have I missed the titles? When's the titles?
Yeah.
Are we still in the pre-credit sequence? Did you kind of think that?
Do you know what?
Or were you like?
I don't think I thought that. I thought, fuck me, this is a long pre-title sequence. That thought, I remember, did cross my mind in exactly that way. Yeah.
I think out of those options, the Norway one is an interesting one, because you wouldn't see Bond, but you definitely have to flesh it out a bit more. Obviously, I really like it though, man. Like, it's totally different to anything we've seen before. I think the tension is there, the horror is there. I love the little throwbacks within it as well. Obviously, we see the Beretta 9mm under the sink next to the bleach when it pans, and like that's fantastic. That like the jacket, the look of the jacket and that mask is scary as hell. And when you first see him at the window, it's like, hell. And then
it is
when
like
you
a
see
horror
the
film,
mask,
isn't it? Yeah.
it really is. And you know, there's that door that's sort of with the I don't know what you saw, not grooves, but you know, that sort of static door type thing, where everything's, you can kind of see like 1,000 faces almost, and he just slowly pulls the door open, and I'm like, whoa. And you know, when he goes up the stairs, because I love how it's quite slow. But the footsteps are loud, and then you see he's got all these spikes on his boots, and there's something about that. It's like, oh, you could cause some damage with that, but obviously he's got a gun as well. But for me, I think that is an absolutely brilliant idea. Now, like, and I think it was shot incredibly well as well.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's not that I don't like the pre-title sequence or I think it's wrong. I love all the stuff that's in it, right? Great, but I just don't know whether it would have been served better to split that up in some way or do it in a slightly different order. I don't know. Here's a question. Do you think that should have been the house in El Tuasi from Spectre? Because she tries to open his secret door, doesn't it? And the camera goes in there and you see his passports and his Spectre ring sitting there. And it's very much like his little secret room downstairs in Spectre, isn't it? So,
because later on Bond says, oh, what is it with your dad and secret rooms or something, doesn't he? And I think he would have more than one. I don't think he and also I think the one in Altesea is a lot more stuff going on, so like at home he's got like a little one that he'll need to if he needs to, but you know, he's with family, so he doesn't kind of want to do it so much. Whereas the other place, I imagine, is a bit more of a place where he'd go to do sort of Spectre shit and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I'm sure he's got L'American as well, hasn't he? That's a little secret room he enjoys. I do. Do you know what, man? I think ultimately, because a lot of people said they weren't keen on Madeleine last time, weren't they? Or they didn't believe the relationship and all that stuff, which is fair enough because it whips along, didn't it?
It's just a bit too quick for me.
I feel like this is Madeleine's film, man. Like, if you imagine how we always talk about Tracy, how she's got a pair of balls on her, not literally, obviously, but figuratively, and she gets stuck in, she kills Gunter and all that kind of stuff. She's behind the wheel. She rescues Bond. She's a spunky Bond girl, isn't she, Tracy? And Madeleine, man, that moment where you have to cheer, man, where he comes up the stairs or whatever, and she jumps up from behind the bed, it's like unloads a whole clip into him, and he just fucking flies off that balcony. I'm like, damn, that's a that's a cool little girl, man.
I think the whole
Yeah.
cinema was cheering,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, each time I've seen it,
Yeah.
that's a bad. And also, it just shows what she's been through. Obviously, you see the mum sort of drunk on the sofa and everything like that, and she's had to fend for herself. Her dad's never there, and obviously the mum's saying, "Oh, he kills people." You know, she's been through so much. And then that moment, obviously, it's a throwback as well to when she's mentioned Inspector that someone came to kill her dad and stuff like that. And it just shows you, it is. You're right. It is Madeleine's film. Well, it's Madeleine and Bond's film, but it is a lot of Madeleine's film. And I think just seeing that moment and that she was able to do that within herself and shoot him, and it's brilliant. And then she's wearing that sort of coloured rainbow jacket, pulling him, and I love his head just going boom, down the stairs, and she's pretty strong as well to carry, pull someone like a full adult outside. And then you get that moment where he's in the snow, and she sort of sits back thinking like she's kind of what to do now, and then suddenly he's like and then sort of rises up, and his mask is sort of half off the bottom part of his face. That man is scary.
Again, that's very much a horror movie thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And then obviously she's sort of frightened, legs it onto the frozen lake, and then you get the sort of classic ice sort of cracking, and she doesn't know what to do, and he's just slowly like walking towards her. That's all brilliant. So what did you think of the fact that obviously she fell in, Saffin comes along, he's got his gun, he sees her under the ice, and those eyes when she's like trying to get out and she can't, and it's what does he do? Does he try and shoot her to kill her? Does he leave her to drown? Or ultimately, does he shoot the ice to then try and get her out?
I don't quite know what to make of Saffin, in the sense that there's that moment later with Matilda where he's like, hey, if you don't want my protection, you're free to go, and just lets the kid run off. And so I don't know what he's... I don't quite know what he is. Do you know what I mean in that regard? Like, because if he was like a proper villain, he'd be like, right, I've got you now, and run off with her. You know what I mean?
I wish you were cast as a villain. I've got you now.
Well, you hold on for Bond 26, mate. I had a word with Barbara on Tuesday. She's up for it. Yeah, man. So he's not like that, is he? I guess he has that tenderness. There's an element of kindness in him, and as well, you can kind of sympathise with him a little bit, can't you? Obviously, because he's on a revenge mission, isn't he? He's not. I still don't know why he wants to kill everybody in terms of the end with millions of people dying from this thing. I don't think he's ever mentioned of why he wants to do that.
I've got theories on that, but we'll come to that.
So I don't know. So, but on that one hand, like, if Mr. White mows down the entire Wright family, you're going to go on a vendetta mission, aren't you? And you're going to get that motherfucker for it, So it's not a typical villain in the sense that he's just got his dastardly plan and that's it. It's like every single one of us could sympathise with his motivation in terms of getting, Mr. White back. Maybe murdering Mr. White's entire family in response is a little bit much. Obviously, you would just go and take down Mr. White, wouldn't you? So he's got a bit of humanity in him, obviously. So that's interesting, isn't it? I tell you what, though, man, he is creepy as fuck, isn't he, Saffin?
Yeah.
Like, I watched a bit of Mr. Robot before. I didn't watch the whole series, but I just to get an idea of what he was before when they cast him, and he does creepy so well, and he is very, very creepy in this film. Like, there's that minute thing later on when he's waiting for her with the appointment with Madeleine, and he's got that strand of hair between his fingers. It's like, ooh, he's like a weird little pervy man or something. But so it's, I guess, I don't know why he rescues her rather than just lets her drown or indeed shoots her under the ice. But I guess it's just like a weird...
My sort of thought on that is, he obviously is a child who survived a slaughter of a family, and it's kind of, there's that small link to, he may have killed the wife, he still wants to get Mr. White, but he is a child of the family who ultimately isn't at fault. It's her father rather. So I think there is part of that, and maybe there is, like, he didn't know that he'd feel that power from actually saving someone, but I think it was just that little bit of humanity. We're seeing a little girl trapped under the ice, with, her eyes looking up at you. You got to be a cruel motherfucker to,
that's true.
shoot her out. So I think that obviously for the story it had to happen anyway. But I really like that scene. Atmospheric, scary, completely different to anything we've seen. I thought the little girl was brilliant. I thought Saffin was obviously fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'd be interested to know what people's thoughts are about. Would they prefer, out of our three options, what would they prefer to do? I personally, I did obviously find the pre-charts quite long. We'll go into the next bit in a second, but it'd be interesting to see if it was as a flashback or its own thing.
Just to go back to the Madeleine question, I think there's a lot of parallels with Tracy actually, which I when you had a glimmer of it in the last film, obviously, when she talks about keeping the gun under the sink next to the bleach and all that. And I love that detail where the camera pans through and you literally see the gun under the sink next to the bleach. That was a nice little touch. But when you think of Tracy, she was the daughter of a gangster, basically, and then with this one, I guess Spectre is similar, like a gangster organization in a sense. So Mr. White is the same. So there's a lot of, and I think that builds a richer character, because if she was some little daddy's little princess character that just lived the perfect childhood and her dad doted on her and all that kind of stuff, that's a sort of, it doesn't particularly breed a strong character, does it? Whereas when you're a kid who's gone through an upbringing like that, with all that darkness surrounding her, with an alcoholic mum and a gangster dad, essentially, with all that death and carnage around her, the fact that she's pulled the trigger and thought she essentially intended to kill someone when she's however old she was meant to be in that sequence, it's like, damn, man, Madeleine is a much richer character than I think we gave her credit for from the last film. There's a lot more meat
100%,
bones, isn't there?
Definitely,
yeah.
So what do you think, as obviously the last kind of flashback we saw, in terms of something like that, was, I guess, GoldenEye pre-titles, the 9 years ago sort of thing. Are you happy for when a film does that? Do you think there should never be sort of flashbacks, or do you think no, that's fine, it works and it helps to set up this film in particular?
I think it works. I think it's I think it works. I guess if you were to, I have no problems with flashbacks whatsoever. I think that's fine. There is some things I do have problems with, which we will tackle as we get to them. But I suppose here's the thing, right? So if you have that sequence where she pulls him out of the ice, and if that did then dissolve into the title sequence, it's like, how do you then illustrate that was a flashback once you've come out of the song? I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he pulls her out of the ice, and then boom, there's Madeleine as a grown-up coming out of the water. There they are in, Matera. Bond comes scuttling down to the beach and all the rest of it. So tell me about this bit. How are you feeling about this sort of?
So obviously that's how it links in, isn't it? Obviously that's Madeleine's sort of memory. She's traumatized by it. You can tell. I think I like the fact that it wasn't just her swimming and thinking she'd been underwater, and there's that thing about being immersed, and obviously that would bring it back, and that feeling and everything. And I think that link works really well. And then obviously Bond comes along and asks if she's all right, and she hesitates. So it's not like, oh yeah, I'm fine. That hesitation shows you, okay, there is something there. She's definitely not all right, but not okay. But she obviously tells Bond she is, and there's that little moment there. And I think that works fine. That sort of cut from her from when she's young until that point. It worked for me. What about you?
Yeah, man. I guess it definitely it definitely stirs the mystery pot, doesn't it? Of like, oh, all right, we've gone a bit deeper there. Yeah.
And the other thing is that she was swimming by herself, so she wasn't with Bond. So you think that's kind of, did she go there to kind of have her own time to process stuff, or did she just like a morning swim and suddenly she got that sort of memory when she was underwater? I'm not sure which, but I think that worked well for me.
Right, big question, Chris. Big question coming up. They're in the DB5. Right. They're driving through some very scenic Bondian-like territory. Yeah. And he drops the big boy, doesn't he? He drops the line. He does. We have all the time in the world, and then we get the music. Beautiful string rendition. Yeah. Talk to me about that. What do you think about that?
I mean, this is probably a big divide amongst Bond fans as to whether they like it or not. Obviously, there are quite a few nods in this film, particularly to that film. It looked stunning. She's like, "Oh, let's go faster," and Bond's like, "We don't need to go fast." And then we get the music, and for me, it's strange because, okay, so the Majesty's music. We've only ever seen it in a Majesty's film. The James Bond thing we've seen in loads.
We had it in the Spectre trailer, but that's beside the point.
That's right, yeah. And then the 007 theme we've seen in a few, but it's very rarely that we'll get, a song from a past film that we'd play in this one. So it is initially I was really excited actually. That was the first thing. I was like, bloody hell, I love this tune. That's brilliant. And then I thought, okay, this is interesting. See how they go. Yeah. And then obviously he said the line, "We have all the time in the world." There is that balance, isn't it? How much is being force fed a little bit to what's being an homage? And for me, I don't mind it whatsoever. I think that's a nice little moment, but I know exactly why certain people would not be happy with that.
Here's my take on it, right?
Yeah.
So remember that was in the leaked Spectre script, wasn't it? That was going to happen at the end of Spectre at one point, where they were going to drive off into the sunset or the moonset, and she was going to say, "Where are we off to?" or whatever, and he was like, "Oh, we'll see. We have all the time in the world." And part of me, when I read that, was like, gave me chills. I was like, "Whoa! I would have shit my pants if that had happened at the end of Spectre," right?
Yeah.
That takes me back. But no, so they do it at the beginning of this one, right? So naturally, you might assume, hold on a minute, they're doing the Majesty's thing now where she's going to die soon, and then boom, here we go. But obviously it's foreshadowing his death this time. Now, here's where I stand on it. I'm still a little bit undecided because let's turn the clock back. Let's imagine, well, not turn the clock back, let's step into an alternate reality. And let's imagine some of the core Bondian crew are still around. Let's say John Barry is scoring this film, right? Would John Barry have gone, well, we'll reuse We Have All the Time in the World, I'll just put that in a nice little string thing? Or would John Barry have gone, I'm going to write something new for this? He would have gone, I'm going to write something new for this.
That's a good point.
And I guarantee you, it would have been the dog's bollocks, right? So there's a part of me that's like, it's a bit easy to because they know that's going to set all of us Bond geeks on fire when we hear that phrase, and it's going to have an emotional impact on us. But it's also stolen. It's not a new thing. It's not a fresh thing. It's taken from another film. And part of me is like, does that now cheapen Majesty's a little bit? Because it's that We Have All the Time in the World was all about George. It was all about Bond and Tracy. And now it's not anymore. It's about this as well, especially with it over the end credits as well. So it's like, I don't know how I feel about it. Part of me, the Bond geek in me, is like, oh, that's exciting. But the other part of me is like, I don't know whether that was the right choice. I don't know whether there was another line they should have come up with. Like, in Spectre, you had that classic line, "You're a kite dancing in a hurricane, Mr. Bond." And you have, no, Mr. Bond, all those fucking phrases that are like iconic in the series. I feel like we probably deserved one of those phrases. Do you know what I mean? A new one that was unique to this. Similar maybe, but that does the same job. But I just don't know. I'm undecided on that.
So if it had been at the end of Spectre, would you have liked it?
Again, I don't know. Like when I first read it, it gave me chills, right? But then, so what I'm saying is I'm split in my mind. My super Bond geek mind is like, ooh, that's exciting. Then my sort of logical mind goes, I don't know if that's right. I don't know if that's the right thing to do, because let's face it, if John Barry was scoring this, man, we probably wouldn't have had that. I would wager we'd have had something new.
I do think though, if the line is being used, then the music can be used. I think they go together. Yeah. So if you're accepting the line, then you can accept the music.
100%.
And if you're happy with the music, potentially you can accept the line.
Yeah.
But so there is that. So I think the bigger thing is the line rather than the music.
Yeah, for sure. I think the line is the important bit for me, in the sense that, because obviously that's a feature in the script and it comes up again at the end. Yeah. So it's a no-brainer to put the music in if you're going to have that line. But I just.
So what about if that line wasn't used there, but we still had the line later on where he says to Madeleine, "You have all the time in the world." Would you be okay with that, or again, is that too much? You just think, right?
See,
no,
at the
this
end,
line now
yeah,
should be something, and potentially whatever line that was is the one that then is repeated at the end.
Well, at the end, he says, "You have all the time in the world," doesn't he?
Exactly. Yeah.
And man, that one feels like a gut punch. That's like fuck when that happens.
Yeah.
And
but that's why I think they use this line now.
So it's definitely
so that they can then use it the slight variation of it later on.
So again, I like I say, it's not that I dislike it. I'm undecided. There's half of me that's like, fuck, man, that's great, and then there's another half of me that's like, is it though? Should they? Is it too easy? Is it cheap and easy to get an easy thrill out of us by just taking that from another movie and sticking it in there, instead of doing something new, because that was Bond and Tracy, man. That was all about them. I don't know. I'm undecided. I'm not sure.
The other bit is that it purely, that little segment is just for that line, because you could have almost gone from Bond saying, "Are you okay?" and she's saying, "Yes, I'm fine," or whatever it was, from that to them driving to Matera and not had that little bit with the line. I mean, because obviously it doesn't add anything to the story. It's purely this is a lot. Well, it does a little bit, but you know what I mean. It's to get that line in, I think. Yeah. So you could have even cut that out. Some people probably would be definitely happy with that. I think it's something that some people are going to be able to accept and go with, and some people aren't. Yeah, and I
can see both. Yeah, I can see both sides.
Yeah, I can see both. I in my head, I am the former, but I can see why.
I was having a chat on Thursday, maybe, where after the screening, and the thing that makes me a little bit wary of it is this. Like, that, did you watch The Mandalorian, the Star Wars thing? You didn't? Okay.
No, that's something that's on the...
So I won't spoil it for you then, in case you do watch it.
I kind of did hear people talking about it.
Okay, so you know, but I won't, if anybody at home has not watched it, I won't spoil it. For me, I watched the second season, and for me, I love the setting and all that kind of stuff, but I don't think it's very good, right? And I'll tell you why I don't think it's very good, because not a lot happens in terms of story, and all of a sudden, every now and then, a legacy character will pop up that from another Star Wars property. So it might be, that character was a minor character in that thing over here. That was a major character from that film, and they show up. And for me, they relied too heavily on that. It was like, it's that fan service thing of like, all of a sudden, fucking, not that he does, but let's say Han Solo jumps up in episode 3 or something, and everyone's like, oh, fuck, it's Han Solo, fuck, that's amazing, that's brilliant. And it's like, is it though, or is it a cheap thrill? Because the rest of the story was, for me, lackluster and a little bit boring. I'm like, I'm not that invested in this. I don't think the storytelling's that good. But everybody's talking about the fact that Han Solo pops up. And I'm like, there is that thing with this. Do you know what I mean? That's my thinking. But again, there's a part of me that loves it, and then there's another part of me that wonders if it's the right choice. I don't know what the answer is.
So alternatively, we could have had them driving the same sort of scene, same shots and everything, and her telling Bond I do like her sort of saying, "Oh, come on, let's drive fast." And Bond, who's normally the one who likes driving fast, says, "Oh, we don't need to do that. And he's probably thinking about
what he should have said. We got loads of time, and then that would have been it. And then at the end, he goes, "You got loads of time." Boom. And he got a new song called Loads of Time.
There you go. Yeah. You could be the villain and the script writer.
They should get me right in these movies, shouldn't they, man? Yeah.
So they could have kept that and just not said the line, and then had another bit of sort of beautiful music as they're driving through. Because I do like the part where they first go to Matera, where you see the DB5, and clearly they've got a second DB5 as it sort of goes over, and then you see it at the bottom down, as it turns out. And I thought that's a nice little sort of cinematography there. But Matera itself, what an absolutely beautiful place.
Perfect on location.
There's so many amazing sort of sweeping shots and like pans across, and it just looks stunning. I mean, I'm definitely want to visit it at some point. It's I think, like you said, is a great Bond location, isn't it?
That'll be your next bungee jump, man. Jump off that bridge. Job done. So man. So we get there. I do like the little thing about the whole burning the secrets thing and all that kind of stuff. That's a very Bondian thing. I like that. And then there's the whole thing about Vesper being buried there, and they have a little back and forth, don't they? And
so what do you think to that then? Because obviously it's not Bond that's instigated their trip to Matera, it's Madeleine.
yeah,
And the whole thing behind this is she knows that Vesper's on Bond's mind, and he keeps looking over his shoulder. You'll never forget the past. I think that's a brilliant line. Really, really like that line. And it's kind of her way of saying to Bond, right, you kind of have to say whatever you need to say, and then draw a line under it. And I like how Bond is like sort of confident in his reply, and he's just like, okay, if that's what it takes. And that how simple that delivery is how important Madeleine is to Bond at that moment.
Yeah.
And Daniel Craig, to be fair, he acts his socks off, I think, for the majority of this film. And that just a simple okay, but how he delivers it is brilliant. It just tells you everything. And then you've got Madeleine who does her little memory, and it's The Masked Man, obviously, written in French. And then you see her sort of burn that and put it over. And I think that's great. And she's got her secrets, and Bond's got his secrets. What did you think of that whole bit? I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I because obviously, I suppose, have you seen the trailers? Have you gone back and watched them now?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Well, I've seen 2 trailers.
Because I remember the thing that made me go, ooh, was when it's like, burn along on the DB5, and he's like, everyone has their secrets, we just haven't got to yours yet. And that made me go, fuck, oh my God, what have we got here, So I obviously I'd seen that, so I knew that thing was coming. So I was like, oh, here we go, So that's nice. I like the callback to Vesper, and obviously he goes up to the grave by himself. What do you think about him saying, I miss you?
I like it. I think it's good. First of all, that shot where he's walking over the sort of Acropolis, and you see the sort of gravestones and tombs and everything, looks magnificent. And he goes to see that sort of guy, and he's obviously, I want to go to tomb, whatever it is, or grave, whatever it is, whatever number. And there's that little kid that takes him there, isn't he? Yeah. And at the first, you just think he's working with this guy. Little do you know that he's actually, going to eventually help Spectre. But I like that bit. So he gets there. The picture of Vesper is interesting though, isn't it? Because it's like a direct shot from the film, I think, which is interesting. But obviously, Vesper's sort of place. And again, I think Bond's delivery is absolutely amazing, because he really takes a moment to think. Sorry, Daniel Craig's delivery is amazing. He really takes a moment. You can see him sort of thinking about it. He's obviously been on his mind for, since 2006, but it's been on his mind for years. And it's true. He misses her, even though he's with someone who he loves in Madeleine. He misses Vesper, and he says he misses her. And
that's the thing, because that relationship was cut short, wasn't it? So it's like,
exactly.
That's the thing. I mean, that when you think of Vesper's death scene underwater there, that would never leave you, would it? I mean, imagine
not at all.
That would haunt you on the daily, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. And what did you think about his memory? Because there's obviously his message said "forgive me," which he burned. Why do you think he obviously blames himself for Vesper's death? Even though she was the one that kind of committed her own suicide, he blames himself, doesn't he? Is that because he couldn't get her out of the lift, or because of other things going on? I think
he feels he should have known. He should have picked up on the signals that something was off, and that's like
blinded by love.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the key Bond becoming Bond thing, is that the Bond we know, the Goldfinger Bond, right? The gold standard Bond is this machine who's a master spy, never lets his guard down. He's the business, and what he's done there is he allowed himself to be blinded by love. He didn't see the signs of that something was going on, so he blames himself for it, and that's what he's carrying with him through this whole thing.
And so we get that, and then I mean, I think it's brilliant. I think it's great when he says that. Obviously, he burns it. And then he sort of notices, I think there's some old old flowers, like flowers that have been there a while ago. He sees a little card. He's like, well, obviously, who else would have given her flowers, apart from me? And then he picks out the card, and you see the Spectre logo on it. And you just see his reaction, and then you hear the beep, and you're like, fuck. And then obviously you just get that big explosion. Now, in this film, is probably the one where something blows up next to him, like more than any other. He has hand grenades, he has this bomb and various other things. His ears must be fucked. And you get that point where obviously you see the bomb go off, Bond getting blasted back, and you think, well, it could be, oh, Bond is he's gone, and I think that's great. What do you think? What do you think to that bit? The fact that there's Blofeld had sort of set this thing up.
Yeah, I think it's first of all, that explosion, the dude next to me on the Thursday viewing literally jumped out of his seat like it was like the bomb had gone off underneath his chair, which made me chuckle a little bit. But the sound in that Leicester Square one's pretty good, isn't it, with all the surround stuff? Yeah. And I do like the sound design that they do there, where it's like you really feel it, don't you? Like the ringing in the ears and all that kind of stuff, and there's all that stuff. It's cool. It's like, like for me, it lights a little fire in me that it's like, all right, you've fucked with him once with Vesper in the events of Casino Royale, and now he's gone to pay his respects, and you've messed with that again. Like, you're going to get a good hiding. Do you know what I mean? That's the feeling it gets in me, and that sort of gets me excited.
But at this point, Bond doesn't know who's responsible, because he thinks, well, it was Madeleine's idea to bring him to Matera. She obviously knew about Vesper's grave, so in his mind,
she's prime suspect number one.
But I think the next part of the pre-title, should we leave that for episode 3?
Yeah, man. I think let's draw a line under that today with the explosion, and then we will pick it up tomorrow for part 3 of 30 Days of No Time to Die, I reckon. But yeah, solid stuff so far, man. I like it.
Definitely.
Tell you what I don't like his outfit.
Oh yeah, okay. Tell me about it.
It looks a bit Last of the Summer Wine to me for our overseas customers. That's like you can Google it. And then you'll see what I mean. You wouldn't know it unless you're from the UK. But yeah, it's a bit like an old man suit. I don't like. In fact, I don't like how they dress him in most of this film. I don't think he looks that cool.
He wears that. Is it like a long sleeve white top with the buttons? I like that. Buttons at the top. That's quite nice.
Yeah, I like the old Henley, isn't it? The 3 buttons. Yeah. So yeah, I like that. But most of the outfits, aside from the dicky bow tucks and all the rest of it, I'm not mad on it. I'm not a fan of this suit. I don't know. It makes him look a bit old man like. But anyway, that's a conversation for another day. So all right then, we will return tomorrow. I've been Tom Sears.
I've been Chris Wright for episode 2,
and James from Radio will return with 30 Days of No Time to Die part 3 tomorrow morning. We'll see you then, everybody.
Bye.
Hope you enjoyed the show. Good night.